Well, hey, Gundam Maniacs, welcome to another episode of Gundam Explained. This one we got a really good one, has to do with Universal Century lore, and that is the model numbers, your designations for mobile suits and Gundams, because of course that's the biggest mystery of all. How did they come up with these numbers? And who really cares? I do. I know I do, so I'm sure some of you do. Yeah, so from like RX-78, what does the RX mean? Or what does like an LM312V04 SDVB03AV mean? That last one, I don't know if I can help with, but we'll try. Hey, but before we get started, if you haven't, please subscribe. And if you think this is a cool video, give it a like. Also, check the links in the description for ways you can support the channel. There's some cool perks like exclusive podcasts, behind the scenes, some technical documentation. But also, there's a link for our Discord. The Discord's a lot of fun. Hope to see you there, but let's get started. It all started with a Reddit post. And I get it, it's Reddit. But Reddit is like driving down the highway. You got to use it to get where you want. There's going to be some assholes in the way. Just avoid them. Shout out to Kuroagia on the Gundam subreddit. It had some really neat things. Listen, I mean, a whole lot. So the link in the description if you want to check it out yourself. But Earth Federation. So the R stands for Renpo. Renpo is something as, a Westerner English speaker. I never ran across it in any Gundam media at all. It makes no sense to us. Some words are just strictly moved over, but sometimes they completely change things. So it's very interesting. And X for experimental. The last two digits are the year that development began. So the RX-78 began development in UC 0078. And is an experimental Federation model. And something I'll add here, and I'm pretty sure that's part of this whole list here, is sometimes we'll see some suits with numbers that would designate the year, but they rolled out that year, or they rolled out years afterwards, like the Atlas Gundam. A lot of people say, hey, the Atlas Gundam seems a little too extreme and advanced to be part of the one-year war, but actually it came out in 80, but it was based on the RX-78. So the RX-78 2, Amuro's best friend. No, that's Haro, actually. But anyway, the RX-78 2, that's like the second RX-78. Yeah, so it says here, so the RX-78 began development in UC 0078 and is an experimental Federation model. GM has had several explanations, and most of the sources tend to contradict each other. Yeah, that's kind of common, isn't it? The most common seems to be Gundam mass production, and that's actually what I think it was during a live stream with Steven and a lot of other Gundam maniacs in chat. We kind of came to the conclusion, based on sources out there, that it probably means Gundam mass production. The RX-78-2 Gundam was what kind of led the charge for how they would develop a mass production mobile suit anyway, and really it's just the difference of a VFin. Yeah, it says here they're usually based off of a Gundam of some type. So here we get into some deep lore, which means nothing in the grand scheme of things, but I love this stuff. Titans. For the Titans with the RX XXX numbers, the first two numbers represent the development site. So I like this. So we have 10 is Granada, 11 Luna 2, 10 Solomon or Kanpei Island. I guess there's different ways you could pronounce that. It's a Japanese word. 13 Abaoku, Gate of Zidane. 14 Pezun, 15 New Guinea, 16 Kilimanjaro, 17 Grips, 18, 19 Jabro. Now, it'd be hard to memorize that, but over time, if you kind of keep remembering that as you're seeing mobile suit model numbers, you can quickly go like, oh, that was developed here or there. All right, and I found this other website very awesome. It looks like it was part of something called like Gundam Project. That was a website to have all this technical information, and now it's on an Angel Fire page, which if you're not familiar, that's like the old school way to make a website where you didn't have to pay for anything. I actually do have my Angel Fire still up from late 90s, early 2000s. Actually, I think it was called Tripod. Anatomy of a mobile suit designation. For this analysis, we'll borrow the vocabulary of U.S. military aircraft, the apparent inspiration for the Gundam saga's alphanumeric labels. In this terminology, the complete string of letters and numbers is referred to as the mobile suit's designation. The designation can be broken down into the following parts: type code MS, model number 06, variant code R, block number 1. So this seems to be based around Zeon and how they were pushing their model numbers, which seemed very much in line with, as they're saying, U.S. military aircraft. Okay, so that example, that was supposed to be Zeon Zaku 2 high mobility type. Its type code and model number indicate that it's a general purpose mobile suit, the 6th in the series, MS mobile suit. The variant code and block number further identify this as the first version of the R-type Zaku 2. Such variant codes are often used to identify variations and customizations, such as D for desert, K for cannon, M for marine, and so forth. But they're not always used consistently. Yeah. And the K for cannon, I guess they're on that Mortal Kombat train, right? While most of the Gundam Saga's organizations use designations similar to the above examples, each uses its own characteristic type codes and numbering system. Yeah, going through this and looking at other mobile suits, I really did notice that at the end of the day, it's not all completely consistent, but you can still, following how they have laid out the modeling numbers, you can kind of like figure it out. Check this out. Type code RX, meaning experimental mobile suit. Example, RX-78 Gundam. RB, that's for mobile pod, the ball. So RB being the Federation ball, that's how it's seen. Because remember that R is that Renpo, which is just the Japanese term for Federation. RGC, so GC, I'm thinking gun cannon, R, Federation. GM, so that's the mass-produced Gundam. The GZ, so this is, even though that's GZ Gundam Zeta, mass-produced Zeta Gundam. So, and it's pronounced a lot of times like Rigazi. Yeah, over on the right, that example, RGZ91 Rigazi. And that's kind of funny too. That's a whole other video. And in fact, I think I've already made that video where sometimes names of mobile suits are pronounced differently, but it's like interchangeable, you know, like the GM in Gym. RMS, mass-produced mobile suit, so RMS. So yeah, mass-produced will have the Federation and then the MS afterwards. If it's not a mass-produced Gundam, which the GM is. So that's very interesting. RMV, so that has to do with the gun take. MV, V maybe is for the tanks. Vehicle. FA, full armor type. Now, what's interesting about that is on this next, the fighters, which I love, FF stands for fighter. So yeah, they say this fighter starts with F, but then you see that full armor type, but that was just because it was wanting to denote full armor. The fighter just has two Fs, FF. I mean, that sounds cool anyway, but I think that's an example where you see that FA and the FF, and it kind of contradicts each other, but at the same time, you can understand what it's trying to get across there. All right, in Zeta Gundam and Double Zeta Gundam circa UC0087 to UC0089, the Federal Forces briefly adopt a different model number scheme. In this system, the first two digits of the model number indicate where the mobile suit was developed, just like we saw in that Reddit post, while the third digit indicates the sequential order. Thus, the RMS-106 Hyzak is the sixth mobile suit type developed at Granada. Here are the available development codes. So yeah, we were just looking at this earlier, yeah, to kind of get an idea of where it was developed. So if you look on the right of examples of maybe mobile suits you like I love the Mark II. So it's pretty cool to see. So 17 developed at Grips, that's where that 17 is, which is confusing because I was just thinking the 78 was part of the RX-78 and the 1 was just added in front of it because it's just another variation. I wonder if maybe that was retconned or it's interchangeable. And then seeing some of these mass-produced suits down here, we got the Zaku Diver, Zaku Mariner, Jaburo. It's interesting. It's so crazy. Yeah, once we get to the Zeta and Double Zeta timeline, how you're seeing all these like Zeon-based weaponry developed in Federation bases. Anaheim Electronics, though a contractor for many Federation Forces mobile suits, uses its own designation system for the mobile suits it constructs for the AUG Resistance Group. The type codes of its mobile suits begin with MS, followed by either the default A for Anaheim or the initial of a project or project supervisor. The model numbers indicate the order in which they were developed. Okay, so let's pull this back. MS, AUG stuff's always going to have MS in the front, almost like we kind of see with Zeon stuff too, and Axis and sleeves. But so MSA, not to be confused with AMS, MSA, A being Anaheim. So Nemo is a 3. So it was the third developed mobile suit by Anaheim Electronics as a mass-produced suit. So the other thing, when we see the F, Fujita, so this is what's interesting, and I think that's the same thing with Mamoru Nagano. These are actual artists, mechanical artists or mechanical designers, I guess, that are using their design philosophies to make these mobile suits. And it's very interesting that within the canon of the Gundam franchise, they do take an initial from their name to name the suit, even though in universe it is not related to that guy. So I wonder what then in universe then that means. If it's in the event that that artist or something doesn't exist in the universe to have created it. Am I making sense here? Because it makes sense with the MSZ, because the Z is the Zeta project, because that last letter can be something to do with a specific line that creating a product or project that they're working on, but when it's the actual artist, that is pretty interesting. So auxiliary vehicle FXA. So it does have that F in front that they would use because the G Defensor is kind of like an aircraft, but it also attaches to the Mark II. That's why it's like an auxiliary vehicle. And it's really cool to see the DJ was a Kuraba design. All right, Newtype Labs. This is where it gets kind of creepy because it's even implied that the artificial new types produced by these organizations are also cataloged in this fashion. 4 is referred to by the designation MRX004. So if you see something that's MRX, that's Murasame Labs. NRX is unidentified new type labs. So I wonder if it just means it's a new type mobile suit production, but not necessarily where it was, or it was like outside of the lab specifically. Or I wonder if that just means there are some labs that are just unknown, which would make sense. ORX. Augusta Labs. A and O, can that be interchangeable? Again, it's that Japanese thing where it's like the sound. But yeah, Gap Plant, that's Augusta. Which now it's helping me connect the dots of when in Zeta those cyber new types would appear in the mobile suits they were in. And yeah, it's all coming together. Paptimus, he was such a badass that he had his own line, PMX. All right, and back to Zeon, which was kind of used at the beginning of this site to kind of talk about like the modeling. I almost feel like Zeon has a very practical approach to it. MS, general purpose mobile suit, MS. Amphibious suit, MSM. New type has the N at the end. That makes sense, like with the Zeong. And oh yeah, and on the amphibious suit, I meant to mention that M at the end. Man, there's a lot of these words. It's like this video is about words, and then I'm saying words, and it's just tripping me up. M, marine type, probably. MA, general purpose mobile armor, makes sense. Mobile armor, MA. Amphibious mobile armor, MAM. Again, makes sense. But wouldn't it be AMA? But it's MAM. This is confusing. And then new type mobile armor, man. So mobile armor, new type. Okay, so Neo Zeon, the Axis, later known as Neo Zeon forces in Zeta Gundam and Gundam Double Zeta use type codes beginning with AM, followed by a sequential model number and optional variant code. Many of these model numbers are 3-digit numbers that begin with A1, which apparently indicates that they were created by a second design team. Thus, the AMX-003 Gaza C and AMX-103 Hama Hama are each the third product of their respective design teams. The second Neo Zeon movement featured in Sharp's Counterattack uses the same system with the exception of the MSN-03 Yakdoga and MSN-04 Sazabi, which continue the tradition of the Principality of Zeon's MSN-02 Zeong. Here are the known type of... Okay, that is some cool lore, intentional or not, because the Sazabi is Char. So it's almost like as he was probably authoritative in the types of mobile suits that were being deployed or being used, even the naming conventions, he probably wanted to keep it in line with his legacy. So AMX, Axis Mobile Weapon. Interesting. So Gaza C and Gallus J are mobile weapons as opposed to mobile suits. Anyone have any background on that? So AMS, Gyaradoga, that makes sense. AMA, Axis Mobile Armor. Out of everything they've listed, that's like the most logical model number. And then NZ, Unknown. I like that, but I would think that's, what, Neo Zeon, right? It says unknown, but I'm pretty sure that means like Neo Zeon or new type Zeon, you know, something like that. A lot of times the N is at the end for new type. So at the beginning, it makes me think it really means Neo Zeon. But if you look at the two mobile suits, these were those big, badass new type style ones. So yeah, very interesting on that. And then here's some, later you see stuff that I love. It looks like Crossbone Vanguard uses type codes XM for mobile suits and XMA for mobile armors. And then when we get to SNRI, SNRI uses a unique scheme for its formula project. Here, the first digit indicates the function of the mobile suit, and the second digit indicates the order of development. Okay, pretty neat. Long-range support type, general purpose type, advanced fighter type. I guess F being formula project. Jupiter Empire uses the prefixes EMS and EMA. League Militaire, so this is that one I was talking about earlier, where I think this is where it gets crazy. It even says here, Victory Gundam's League Militaire uses an unusual and rather complex designation system. A series of digits tally the number of parts the mobile suit separates into, how many generators it has, and the number of main thruster systems. After this comes a letter and digit combination that represents the mobile suit type, and finally a variant number. Here's the LM312V06 Victory Gundam Hexa as an example. I will say that I do like that in a way because it's like telling you everything technically about the suit. So that is kind of a neat way to go about it. Zeon Scarin, so that's like the same time frame. They kind of do sort of a similar thing as well. Although they did kind of break it down. S for mobile suit, S suit, A armor, D for the transformable type because it's like a dual modes or something. That's interesting. Now, I'm not going to cover the AU stuff, but it is here, and the link will be in the description if you want to take a look at it. That would probably be a separate video where I'm speaking specifically on that AU. So there we go. There was a lot there to take in. Links in the description if you need a refresher on that, but I kind of like having that handy because I would love to really understand what I'm saying when I'm just calling out random model numbers for mobile suits, or to when I see the model number, I can get a better understanding of its context, its lore within Universal Century, so that that can kind of help me decide what I want to get when I'm like, what kit should I buy or build out of the backlog. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you found that enjoyable. Please like if you did. Also, thanks to all the supporters. The supporters have been totally motivating me to continue to make this content. I'm having a lot of fun. Join the Discord if you haven't. It's a lot of fun there. But guys, we'll talk later.